Hi, my name is John and I paint horses for a living. My budget is $500 million and I like open concept. No, I'm just kidding. So today we're like restarting house hunting for our first investment property. It's going to be a move-in. So I want to give 1 or 2 minutes of kind of like background information, and then we're also going to do the clips, like a few just shots of like what we like and don't like about these houses that we're walking today. We're walking 7 properties. So I guess I'll talk for a minute or two and then anything you want to add. So background is this is October, what, 24th?
7th?
Okay.
6th? I don't know.
So we started looking in July?
Yes. Started looking in Maryland.
Yeah. And we live in Maryland currently, and we were originally looking in Maryland and utilizing online tools like, at the time I was using Zillow mostly, and then also a little bit of Trulia and Redfin, and since that time I think we've gravitated more towards Redfin, like over time. And at first we were kind of going it alone, and now we're using a realtor. So the approach is that we want to move in. So by moving in, you can get a low down payment. Some people call that house hacking. It's a form of house hacking. We actually were able to qualify through Navy Federal for a 0 down, which is super sick. So I'm not a veteran, Tina's not a veteran, but we have family, and that's how we were able to qualify. So VA loans, look into that. If you're military, if you have immediate family that's military, look into Navy Federal's program. USDA also has a 0 down program. It's regionally restricted, it's geographic. You have to do it in a certain location, but it's still a great deal. Other than that, pretty much anybody can do like the 3 or 3.5% FHA. So those are some great low down payment options if that's what you want to care about. And then also, you know, obviously a super high monthly and stuff like that is going to affect your margins. So the idea being after like 1 or 2 years refinance. And so we'll see how that goes, and kind of refinance to a more conventional with the lower monthly and so on. So that's kind of the overall approach. We want to be able to rent out a basement or like an in-law suite or like a unit, even if it's detached. So we're considering duplexes, but a lot of them are actually single units with like a basement with like a bar area. And then you just kind of like build a door and add a mini fridge, and then maybe they bring their own like, what do you call it, like little stove that's like a detachable stove, like you bring a hot plate, yeah, instead of like a full-on stove. So I think in the areas of like Virginia and Maryland, the legal classifier of a kitchen is the presence of a stove, and if you have a kitchen, then you're legally a second unit, so you're no longer a single unit, and that affects like your property classification and stuff like that. So we're technically looking at single family homes, which means they're 1 unit, a single dwelling unit is what it's called over here. So it can only have 1 full kitchen, but you can have like a kitchenette / bar area type of deal. Yeah, so I think that does it for like my background on the situation. Did you want to add anything?
No.
And our real budget is not $500 million, it's $500,000, right? And lower would be better. All right, so here's the first property we're looking at, and we're actually in the car right now. We got here a bit early, then we went to like, there's like a local coffee shop, so that's actually a plus in my book. And we're also close to a Wegmans, which is also a plus. So these are some of the pluses like outside of the property itself. And then we're in a cul-de-sac. So I don't know, in some cases that could be a plus. And we noticed around the block there was at least 1 other property for rent, so there's going to be comps in the area. So we use a tool called cozy.co, to estimate, to get rental estimates, because like I said, we want to rent out the basement. Another thing is we actually want to retain our current property, so that's why the budget's at 500. This is for the second property. So yeah, so we're going to be able to have higher confidence in our comps, because that other place, because there's places around for rent. right, so we just got done walking the first property, and I'll include some of the pictures. I took some pictures. If any of them are like good enough for inclusion, I'll include them. Some of my initial impressions, that it's sufficient for like the owner suite. It's got kind of a smaller master bath. The kitchen is not amazing, but it's like suitable. I did like that there was no carpet on the main floor. There's like a playground in the background, or in the backyard, but I'm not sure it's our property or the neighbor's property.
I think it's the neighbors. Me and Brock were looking at that.
Okay. And it does have on the lower level like some good places where we could separate the tenant part from our part.
Interestingly enough, the lower level basement is actually 2 levels, which is kind of strange but cool.
Yeah. So another quick thing that we've picked up is that it's raining today, and for some reason it like rains like
every
often.
time we look for a house.
Yeah, but Tina, you were saying it's actually good in a way.
Yeah, so one of the things that it's a good reason for it to be raining when you're looking for a property is because you can evaluate if there's any like flooding or water accumulation in the yard, or if there would be anything that would technically be a problem later on when, if you have major storms or anything like that.
So thanks. And so like one of the properties that we walked previously actually had a little bit of pooling in the backyard, but that wasn't the worst thing about it, right? So do you want to tell just like a couple tips when you're walking through what you can be looking for, and then what it was that put us off on that property? Because they actually had 3 units on a single property, which if it worked out would have been financially great, but it didn't work out. Why is that?
Right. So one of the main things to look for in the property on the exterior, obviously, is the condition of the home, the condition of the roof. If there is any pooling in the yard, then that could be, a red flag for if there's any major thunderstorms or, things like that, especially since we live kind of close to Potomac, and there's definitely flooding areas in Alexandria, which is one of the cities that we're looking at. And then when you go into the home, a lot of homeowners, if they notice that there's issues with the home and they don't really have the finances to cover the repairs, they will try to do easy Band-Aid fixes. So looking for things like that, always look up for mold, and look up into closets in the corners and things like that, because that's typically where people won't think to cover it up. And then also, one of the things that I can usually tell if there's molds, kind of luckily is that I'm allergic to it. So if I walk into a house and start getting allergic, then that's a pretty good sign for me, especially since it's the only thing that I'm allergic to. So
yeah. So that property, it was the mold, and they had just painted on the roof. Right.
So look for fresh paint spots when there's not, fresh paint everywhere. That's kind of a good indicator that something's going on. You can also look for if the ceiling's kind of caving or unsettling in certain ways. You look for water damage. So, those were kind of some of the things that we had before.
All right, here's property number 2, outside shot. Boom, boom. And seeing that addition. So immediately to the left.
This one's at $499.
Okay, that's a steal. I feel like we'll see when we get to the basement, whatever. So that's an addition there. So what'd you think about this second property?
Loved it.
Yeah, so
He told me to get my bias off my face.
Yeah. I want to approach each property with an open mind. Although, to be fair, we definitely rank ordered them based on the specs, just reviewing them online. So we're heading to a third property on Blairton Road.
In Springfield. So we've been in Alexandria, now we're headed to Springfield, and then our last stop is Fairfax.
Cool. So Blairton is in our top 3, at least based on the online specs. But this property, what was the road name?
Vantage.
Vantage. So Vantage was not even in our top 3. It wasn't.
Not originally, no.
Right. But I got a really good impression. So the price is great. It's $499. They converted the garage to like a living space, but it doesn't look like a hack. It looks like a very nice conversion.
Has built-ins.
Yeah, has built-in cabinetry or shelving.
It's shelving and a built-in desk.
Okay. And there is, the in-law suite already has a separation wall, so we wouldn't need to spend to get the separation put in. And it has like its own washer dryer, so kind of the whole nine. It actually has a full kitchen with stove, which legally makes it a duplex. But apparently, if you, this is getting into a gray area and it kind of makes me nervous.
So we don't advise this, but we might try it anyway.
Yeah, we don't advise this, but we might try it anyway, which is like uninstall the stove.
Before the appraiser gets there.
Yeah, and then like reinstall it like the next month or something, or whenever your tenant comes in. Or, you know, we could just permanently uninstall it, which if there's any legal question, I would just permanently uninstall it. But right now it's there, so that's nice. Like, if we have to uninstall it, not a big deal. It's set up as a full kitchen, as opposed to like a small bar. One of the drawbacks, it doesn't have a proper master. So it's set up as a 4-2 and it's 1-1 in the guest or the in-law suite. So the proper house is a 3-1, but none of the rooms are connected to the bathroom, and it's kind of a small bathroom. So either we could just like shut up and deal, which I'm fine with, or that bathroom could potentially be expanded. So there's a large closet adjacent, which could be opened and utilized as part of the bathroom space. And separately, the converted garage backs to about a 5 by 10
Yep.
storage space, which could be converted into, I would have to think if that's big enough to make us like content, but that could be converted into a bathroom adjacent that, which is currently set up as a living space, but it could be utilized as an additional bedroom. So that's current thoughts on the second property. All right, so we're driving out from the second property to the third property, and what I just realized is the second property is very nicely located. So we knew it's off of Telegraph Road, which is a main road in the area, in the Northern Virginia / Alexandria, Springfield, or whatever area. Is it technically Fairfax?
No,
It's Alexandria?
it's Alexandria.
Yeah. So then we're returning, we turned onto Van Dorn, which is another major road, and this actually locates it near like a hot area called the Kingstown area. So that's just like a major deal, and there's also like a Topgolf
And we're still close to Wegmans.
in Wegmans.
Priorities.
Major key. All right, so here's the third property from the street view, slightly on a hill right there. You can see there's the secondary entrance, and then there's some kind of structure in the backyard. Check this guy out. Back here feeding Sam.
We got hungry.
So what did you think of this property?
So, I like this property. It has a lot of really nice natural light. Again, we're super close to Kingstown and the mall and Chewy's we noticed on the way over here, which is like one of our favorite places to eat. I am a little still iffy about like walking straight into stairs when you come in the house. It's not necessarily a make or break, but it is something that I considered, especially having a kid.
Yeah, so this is a split entrance floor plan, which is common in the area. So when you walk in, you're immediately faced with a staircase.
One going upstairs, one going downstairs.
Yeah.
The other thing actually that I really did like about this house is the entrance to the rentable basement is actually on the side of the house before the fenced backyard. So our backyard would be private for us rather than sharing it, which was something that we would do with the other two houses we've seen already.
Yeah. I'd also add, so typically the split entrance floor plans have less space than this one did. So this had an extension on the back where usually there would be an exterior deck. Mm-hmm. They converted that, and so it's like interior space, and it's actually a nice living area. And then there is some detail in this place, like the bathroom, the guest bath on the main floor has like an interesting, what do you call it, sink, and like thing under the sink.
A vanity.
Vanity, yeah. And this one is priced at $549, which is a little more, so we'll need to run, you know, we're gonna run the comps and get the ratio of estimated rent to price. But I would say at this point it's still on the table.
Mm-hmm.
That's my thoughts.
All right. right, well, on to house number 4.
All right, so this is the curb view for house 4 on Ash. I don't know if it's drive or road. Initial impression from the exterior, not super stoked, and kind of less impressed with the neighborhood, but let's see the inside. All right, so this is also a split level, but it's a side. You can see it's entering from the side. And then I wasn't stoked about the exterior, but the interior here is like really, really nice. So, and they do have a pool as well. Bunch of open space in this area, and there's a gate that opens, so you could potentially, if you need to like drive, I don't know, like a truck full of supplies, you could just drive it straight to the backyard. Did you have any thoughts on this one?
So we were driving through. We liked all of the neighborhoods so far. This one was probably our least favorite neighborhood. And the exterior of the house we weren't really too impressed with. But as soon as you walk in, it is absolutely gorgeous on the inside. It's also a split level, but this one is a little bit different because it's not, you walk in and have to go straight upstairs or downstairs. The stairs are off to the left, so that's
I actually
a little
got a
bit.
video clip of that.
Okay, great. It's a little bit less concerning when you have like kids or things. They're not going to just dart inside and fall down the stairs, or you know.
It also looks nicer because you can see straight through. They have like iron, like vertical
Iron
bars.
rods for the railing.
Yeah, so you can see straight through all the way through the kitchen and even into the backyard, which is a lot nicer of a view than typical split level. You just see like stairs or a front wall.
I almost just ran over a squirrel. Also, they had an addition on the back from the kitchen that is a sunroom, or a sun dining room, I guess is how they're currently using it. And it has heating and AC, so any time of year we could use it rather than, you know, typically with a sunroom, you use it during nicer weather. So.
One thing I appreciated was the basement was very well done. It was not treated as like a second-rate space. But the quote-unquote bedroom down there was obviously used as a studio previously. It has built-in shelving and it's all hardwood floors throughout. The floors are nice. It's not like your typical just concrete with like flood-proof coat. It's like there's actually a nice tile down there. One problem is that the basement currently is shared laundry. And you could like build up a wall or something, but it would create a very awkward space. So we might need to pay to get like laundry hookups on the main floor, possibly. But the overall price of the property at $510, and then I think we could negotiate it down. But the
I think
asking
it was at $520.
$520. Okay,
Yeah.
That's still better than and this is the Ash Road or Ash Drive.
Ash Drive, yeah.
So that price point puts it cheaper than the third property, which was being asked $549.
Yeah.
Okay. And so now we're headed to Annandale. This is Donna Circle.
Yes.
This is the 5th of 7.
This is, yes, 5th of 7.
And do you know what the asking on the coming property is?
I do not, but we will ask Brock when we get there.
So Annandale is typically pricier, but you know, if you can make that back in rental income, that's the name of the game. So let's check out the next one. All right, here's the Donna Circle property, number 5 of 7 from the street view.
Hard no.
That was so bad. The online pictures, I think we all agreed, are probably from like the previous sale or something.
Yeah. Because the online pictures, like everything was staged, everything was clean. They had a kitchen in the basement that is now like a black hole.
Now it's a trap house. I guess if I was being nice, I would say it looks like it's under active construction.
Yeah.
By someone who may or may not actually know how to do construction. But if I was being mean, I'd say it looks like a bomb went off or like someone fucked the house up. I'm not actually sure if it was intentional like construction or if it was like people just breaking stuff.
We were seriously wondering if we walked into the wrong house because it was that different from what we were expecting. So, next.
Good thing, narrow it down. All right, so right now I'm still in the car. The previous realtor has it for another few minutes, but I'm just observing it from the outside. This is the 6th property. Is that right, Tina?
Yes.
So you can see right there, those roofs don't match. So that could help us with negotiating and also with resale, because if you redo the roofs, then it's like, hey, new roofs. And then over here, the exterior almost looks barn-like. So this 6th house, calling the fucking barn house. So yeah, so we'll hang out another minute and then go get the interior. All right, so we just looked at the 6th house, which is the Laurel house, or the barn-looking house. And it had some pros and cons. So on the negative side, they're asking $550, which is definitely way too high. But there's some clear points of negotiation where we could drive that price down. And if they would come under budget, then there are some pluses to the property. So one is that the house is well divided into an owner's like house and then a very clearly separated like in-law suite. So the barn portion of the house is actually like a garage with an in-law suite on top. It's got like 2 rooms and what?
A bathroom and a little kitchen area.
Yeah. So the kitchen is a kitchenette in the in-law suite. So, you know, no legal issues there. There's no full stove. There is like a hallway area that separates the in-law area from the main house. And then were there 2 basements or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or no, sorry, there was not 2 basements. That was it's an unfinished basement.
Okay, so there's an unfinished basement. It's really not that awesome, but it has like a lot of, I think, a good bit of yard, and then a cool shed in the back. Another drawback would be this is Fairfax, so rents are going to be a little lower compared to Alexandria. So here's property 7 of 7. Neighborhood seems decent. Some nice trees, side entrance, decent driveway. It's slightly uphill, so not really concerned about water. It is starting to rain some more. Let's go check out the interior. All right, so here's the entryway. Got the closet right off. I like the view. You can see the backyard. Hardwood or hard floors. Got some brick that's kind of nice. It does have a dated looking feel. Here's the kitchen. Not super impressive. The bathroom, dated looking feel as well. Okay, so this was the Confederate
Lane in Fairfax.
Yeah. So general impression is that it's well dated on the interior, but it's not like dated to the point that it's like broken or unusable. It's not like run down. But it is older, and I grabbed a clip of that, and I'll show you that. Like the kitchen would need, not necessarily need, but we would want it to be redone. It's shared washer dryer, so either we'd have to deal with that, or we'd have to get washer dryer hookups added to the main floor, which would be an expense. Yeah, there's a ton of space in both floors, so from that perspective it's good. What were your thoughts?
So overall, I think it's a good option. It's located in Fairfax, so it's really close to Main Street and Fairfax Square. So, you know, there's plus sides to that, making it easier to rent out because we're so close to campus. I would also agree that there are, you know, some updates that need to be made. When you're walking up, we noticed some cracks and, you know, the stairs up to the porch, the front porch, were unleveled. You know, some of the railings were squeaky and unstable. So, you know, just things like that. The bathroom and the kitchen are both really dated.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we would probably put more money into updating that than some of the other places that we've seen that have been the same, if not less, of an investment. So.
Well, it was a cheaper ask. So this one, the ask was $510.
Right.
And it's not the least, you're right. So there was like the second house was what, $499, or that might have been the third house. But I do think we could definitely get it at budget or under budget. I think we could even ask under $500 and have some money to do those renovations if we want. But one thing we need to do is look at the houses in the area that have been recently updated and what difference does that make on the value, so we can get a feel for that return on investment. And then also, generally, Fairfax rents are lower than Alexandria rents. But as you mentioned, this one is really close to campus, so that might make a difference. So once again, gotta go back home and reference the rental comparison tool mainly I use cozy.co, as I mentioned, and then also checking out Rentometer and a couple others.
Well, it's also important to consider when you're doing renovations how that's going to affect the timeline for renting it out.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of weighing that in comparison to the ones that we wouldn't have to renovate, or we would have to renovate very little.
That's true. And do you think this one or the 6th property, the previous one, is closer to George Mason campus?
I think they're about the same. I think
Okay.
it's like smack in the middle.
So the Barn House number 6, Laurel, is also in Fairfax, and they're also close to campus. So there is an additional benefit, which is that I actually go to George Mason University. So there's always the aspect of it makes it easier to rent, although the rent prices may be lower when you're dealing with college. But also it's like my university specifically, so there is a benefit there as well. All right, so here we have the 7 properties in the order that we walked them and their asking prices. And then we also have the town it's from. Donna, we didn't even write the price. It's in Annandale, but we were super unimpressed. So we just didn't bother. So we ruled that out. So for the other 6, basically wanted to take 2 approaches. One, anything over 530 is starting to get into like a budget red zone, because you can ask under what you can offer under what they're asking, but it's really unlikely once you're at that big of a difference. When my budget is 500 and they're asking 530 or more. That did not automatically eliminate it though, because we honestly could do more than 500 possibly, but it would be like stressful and have to like work a bunch of financial stuff that I don't want to. But what we did is we grouped them by city, and then the second factor is also considering that cities are like comps. Now, to be fair, we really need to validate this against the actual rent comps, but if something is like, as you can see, like a $30, $40, $50, $60,000 difference, then, a few $100 difference in rent monthly is not going to make a big difference over the lifetime that we'll be holding the property, because we're not going to be holding these properties until, conclusion of the loan. It'll be a lot shorter term than that. Probably less than 10 years, possibly less than 5 years, not less than 2 or 3 years. So probably around the 5-year time frame. And that does factor into how strongly we weight the monthly versus the overall amount. But basically, those 2 strategies, cutting if it's over 530, or at least deprioritizing if it's over 530, and also considering comp by town and then picking our favorite from each town, those worked together to favor us, because as it turns out, we liked Vantage more than Old Quarry anyway. And then I did like Blairton more than Ash Drive. Those are the 2 split levels in Springfield. But the difference in prices, you can see it's like $65,000. I didn't like it that much. I might have liked it a $10,000 or $15,000 differential. So that's why we ruled out Blairton, even though it is a nice property. And then Confederate, it is dated, it needs work. But it's the cheaper one in Fairfax, and it could be within budget. So we're leaving that on for now, just because I want to check the actual rental comps. But that really is our 3rd place. So the debate now, and we need to kind of figure this out, is what's our favorite, Vantage or Ash? Strictly looking at it from a price perspective, assuming equality in the rents, it would be Ash, Vantage, then Confederate. But that's not really fair, because Alexandria rents are usually higher than Springfield. And then the other thing is we need to check like how long they've been on the market, because that might affect our ability to negotiate down and whatever factors we can do to negotiate down. So, if it turns out that we can offer 470 on Vantage and we would really have to go 480 on Ash, then you can see, even though the asking is higher, it's effectively cheaper. So need to go home and check all that out. But these are our top 3 currently. All right, so here is a detailed comparison of the final 3 properties that we were looking at. One on Vantage Drive, one on Ash, and one on Confederate Lane. Vantage is Alexandria, Ash is Springfield, Confederate is Fairfax. You can see there's the number of rooms. So Vantage and Ash are 4.2s, Confederate's a 4.3. Square footage, Then what they're asking, and then I also got on Redfin and looked at the comps. And the comp you're seeing there, Redfin has a feature called related properties. And related properties almost always match on the rooms, so they're going to match on the 4.2, but they can vary by square footage and some other factors like that. So the comp that you're seeing that I wrote down is the highest comp in Redfin's related properties, rounded up to the nearest 5,000. And then the days on market, so Vantage 31, Ash 15, Confederate 16. LOE is the estimate of investment that we're going to have to make it rentable. So for example, Vantage already has a separation wall to the rentable unit with washer and dryer and a good kitchen and everything like that. Ash and Confederate both need a separation wall and perhaps a door put in, and they also both need additional washer dryer hookups. So that looks like $20,000, and plus there may be additional money due to delay because you can't rent it until the construction's done. So that's really $20,000 is trying to capture both the contractor fee and the opportunity cost of not renting out, but it's like a very rough number. Rent, $1,440 on Vantage. This would be renting out a 1-1. Actually, the rentable space on all of them is a 1-1. Rentable square footage estimated and the rentable confidence. And so where do I get those rental numbers from? That's using this tool right here, Cozy. And you can see here I have Vantage Drive entered. Property type is duplex, triplex, townhouse. That's kind of the closest thing. And then you go over here to paid services, and then you can buy a report. And you can see I already did these, and so this is where I'm getting the rental estimate. And Cozy will actually give you a confidence score based on basically the number of comps. So these are all fairly well comped. And as you can see, actually Confederate is the best comped, and it is the highest rental. So that being so close to George Mason, and it is a larger square footage. So these all worked in the favor of Confederate. Another interesting point about Confederate is the only property where they're asking under the comps. And in fact, they're asking significantly under the comps. And I think when we walked it, we could tell it was like fairly dated. And I think that's part of the reason why it's priced below comps. So to be perfectly honest, it looks like Confederate is the best return on investment. If we had just plenty of cash, I think we could upgrade that kitchen, upgrade that bath, and turn around and sell it for a lot more. Potentially convert the basement from a 1-1 into a 2-1, which is something that can't be done on either other property. And I think we could easily sell that for $550 or perhaps even up to $600,000. But it's also the most out of pocket. So it's already priced below comps, which means we can't negotiate down further. It's 16 days on market is like there's no way we can push that down further. It's going to have $20,000 out of pocket. So due to the fact that we want to kind of minimize expense out of pocket at this point, our first choice is going to be Vantage. And then I do think Confederate is the second choice at this point in time. So that's kind of how we came to our current decision. So definitely going to loop back with the realtor and get his idea on what he thinks the offer should be. I think we're going to come in offering $485 on Vantage because comps are $480, but recognizing that this has a value add from the rentable unit. So come in at $485 and then be willing to pay up to $500 if needed. Alternatively, I could submit at $500, which is actually over what they're asking, and request $5,000 in closing costs to really minimize the out of pocket, which is always nice. And so going to discuss with the realtor between those two options what's likely to be accepted.